Gale Wind will be the next LSSR in September. This video will be going through everything you need to know about Gale Wind and whether or not he is worth pulling for. So let's get into the pros and cons about him. For his pros, he is a great control support unit. So what I mean by that is if you play other games, control units are those who are able to disrupt the momentum of the battle by inflicting status elements such as stun. So Gale's main purpose is to not deal huge amounts of DPS onto enemies, but instead reduces the amount of times your enemy can attack, which is very handy. He's even more amazing if you pull for his keepsake, where he'll be able to stun half of the enemy's team, which can even be extended to 4 with formal set equipped. He can also be able to launch follow-up attacks to a maximum of 5 times per round, which much like RMG is great, especially since he'll be inflicting internal injury every time, much like Garo, which will allow your allies to deal extra damage on top of their ults. He will be amazing for PvE, as his stuns will be able to get you through many PvE scenarios such as Mirage Trials, story challenges, and against limited time bosses, as rendering half of your enemies useless allows you to take less damage. So because he is a one-of-a-kind unit, he has great longevity and is arguably the best LSSR character in the game, as he will still be very useful throughout the SSR Plus era until Metal Knight Plus replaces him, which should be a couple of years from now. And finally, his ult requires 0 energy, which is just too good to be true. However, his ult isn't 100% free, as there is a slight drawback, but you are still able to use his ult even if you have 0 energy from Watchdogman or King stealing your energy. So going through his cons, more so specifically in PvP, he needs to have high speed in order to be competitive against the top players, as going up against a faster Sonic V2 can nuke Gale, or even a faster Gale can stun lock your very own Gale. So if you don't have a speedster, then you could struggle during PvP. But during the middle of the SSR Plus era, his speed isn't as important since there are many other characters that need top priority in regards to speed. So in the long run, he doesn't need that much speed in the future. He is also a grappler, which is a very competitive type, especially once Bomb gets released, since he requires one of every type to activate his core. So you may need to sacrifice units such as RMG or Watchdogman in your lineups for certain game modes. Gale will also be soft countered by Metal Bat Plus, since he'll have a 50% chance to negate stun onto his allies, so this can mess up your game plan and slightly reduce his PvP meta. And finally, there's nothing bad about his overall kit, but he is scheduled to be released right before the long-awaited upcoming SSR Plus era, which should be releasing towards the end of the year, or more so next month, which I will go over at the end of the video. So for newer and free-to-play players, it will be a matter of how desperate you are to summon for him, or you should wait for future characters. So let's get into his attack skills. So for his basic attack, he attacks a single target with 2 hits for 160% of his attack. He also inflicts internal injury for 155% of his attack. So when an ally hits an enemy inflicted with Gale's internal injury, they will also deal extra damage based on 155% of Gale's attack. That's what internal injury does. For his ultimate attack, he attacks targets in a cross shape with 4 hits, dealing 200% of his attack. In the first 2 rounds, he will be able to inflict 2 random enemies hit by his ult with stun. His ult also requires 0 energy to activate, but will however take away 900 energy points from your energy gauge. So for reference, 1000 energy points equals 1 energy, which just means that after every round, you might have slightly less energy than you anticipated, but overall it isn't too much to worry about. Besides, this reduction happens after Gale attacks, so if his second talent page isn't upgraded by default from the energy buff, by default he will increase the energy gauge by 500 energy points when he attacks, then after his ult it will reduce the gauge by 900, so you'll actually only be losing nearly a half of the energy bar, which isn't groundbreaking at all, and you don't really need to worry too much about it, so his ult is still very good. And if you have his keepsake, you'll unlock his ultra ultimate attack, where he'll be able to deal 260% of his attack instead of 200. as well as being able to inflict 3 random enemies hit by his ult with stun within the first 2 rounds. Using his Ultra Ultimate will also use 950 energy points instead of 900, so a very tiny drawback there. So if you are pulling for Gale, his keepsake is very necessary to have, as you'll be able to stun lock half the team, which will be super useful in both PvP and especially in PvE. Do note that because his stunning mechanic is very OP, he can only stun enemies within the first 2 rounds, as well as there being a maximum cap of 4 stunned enemies per round, so you can't use Lightning Max and attempt to stun all 6 enemies in one go, since that will literally break the game. Overall, his skill set is amazing and will be useful for a very long time. Moving on to his passive skills, so when he is hit by non-crit damage, he'll reduce the damage taken by 40%, and after any unit takes action, he'll launch follow-up attacks on the enemy with the highest attack, dealing 80% of his basic attack up to 3 times per round. He will also inflict internal injury every time, since his follow-ups is basically his basic attack, but slightly weaker. If you limit break him to 5 stars, when he is hit by non-crit damage, he'll reduce the damage taken by 50%, and his follow-up attacks will deal 100% of his basic attack up to 4 times per round. And if you manage to unlock his 5-star awakening, his follow-up attacks will deal 120% of his basic attack up to 5 times per round. So during the SSR Plus era, his follow-up passive will be used a lot in game modes such as in Live Clash, so he becomes a solid support character in SSR Plus lineups in the future. Moving on to his enhancements, so for his talent page, his page 3 talents aren't important to unlock since there is no additional unyielding buff, but I will recommend unlocking his 3rd talent page anyways to buff his attack as high as possible. For his damage sigils, you can use sword and or ruthless sigils, and for his support sigils, you should use vitality sigils. What I do want to point out is that the best support sigil for most characters are vitality sigils, so you would normally want your best or tanky units to be equipped with these vitality sigils. Otherwise, good alternatives can be Chaos, Indomitable, Rebellion, or Bastion sigils to boost up their BPs and their resistance to certain stats. So in regards to limit breaking him, upgrade him to 4 stars at a minimum. He isn't the most important to 5 stars straight away, especially if you already are working on Sonic V2 or someone else who you pulled their keepsake for. But if you are pulling for his keepsake, you definitely need to make him your top priority and 5-star him as soon as possible to buff up his follow-up passive. However, Sonic V2 should take priority over Gale Wind if you do plan to pull for both of them. So worry about Sonic 2 first and then get Gale to 5 stars. And in regards to his awakening, at a minimum, get him up to 4-star awakening to attain his crit damage, and crush rate buffs. And if you have his keepsake, then get his 5-star awakening since his stunning capabilities are phenomenal in both PvE and PvP. So moving on to his gears, so for his gear setup, you would want a formal set if you plan to use him for his stuns, or a gangster set if you plan to use him as a sub damage dealer for his passive. And with his gears, you would want 3 attack and attack bonus pieces, and your 1 chest piece being an attack crit gear piece. Since Gale Wind does benefit from crit, so you will have to start working on his crit rate. He is a crit rate reliant character, trust me. He will deal a lot of damage if you have his crit as high as you can. And for his buff gears, all of them should have attack, with your villain gear having attack bonus and flat attack, your grappler gear having crit and flat attack, and your demon gear having damage rate and flat attack. And if you manage to get an augmentation from upgrading your demon gear, getting either a normal attack or crit augmentation will work well with Gale. So now I'll be going into the main takeaways from this unit. He is a one-of-a-kind unit. You don't see control units like Gale throughout the rest of the game until Meta Knight Plus comes out to take over Gale's role. So Gale will be very sought after in many aspects of the game for a pretty long time. He also becomes prioritized as a support unit during the SSR Plus era, as he'll be great for his stuns and following up capabilities to support your SSR Plus characters throughout the game, so he has great longevity and synergy with the upcoming era. He is an essential unit for PvE. You will get very far with him in your team, as well as filling for the grappler slot once Bomb gets released, so you would definitely want to pull for him if you don't plan on pulling the early SSR Plus characters. And finally, he can still work very well without his keepsake, since being able to stun 2 enemies will still be very helpful, and he can even stun up to 3 if he is equipped with a full formal set. However, pulling for his keepsake is very worth pulling for, since he'll be able to stun a maximum of 4 enemies per round, which is just great. So ideally you would want to get his keepsake when pulling for him, but if not, you can save your keepsake vouchers for future SSR Plus keepsakes. So should you pull for Gale Wind? So for free to play and low spenders, he is a very good pull, but this current situation is very tough since SSR Plus is literally around the corner, which I will go into more depth in my next slide. But for now, if you plan to play this game for another year in the long run, then skipping for Gale will be your best option, since you will want as many SSR Plus characters as possible. However, if you do have enough black tickets to pull for Gale and potentially a SSR Plus character at the end of the year, and you don't have patience, then you can pull for Gale. Make sure to watch my pre-Geru SSR Plus detail video to plan out who you should be pulling for in the long run. The next part of that series will be released sometime during September, so look out for that. For Dolphins, he is a great pull to have, since you'll be able to progress very far into PvE game modes such as Mirage Trials and in Training Center missions. And for Whales, he is an absolute must pull, since you guys will be able to fully maximize his potential with his keepsake and being able to include the synergy of both Sonic V2 and Gale Wind into your PvP lineups, which will keep you on top during Bomb's era. So a quick update on not my predicted timeline, but the SSR timeline. So there has been a leak that has surfaced a lot of drama over the past month detailing about the future of this game, and it is unfortunately true. This was confirmed by EBK himself, who was the head admin of the Discord server, who recently stepped down from the role and in the game, addressing the various dramas that has recently occurred over the past month. I won't go too deeply into it today, so you can go check out Gamma's video for more information on that. So to sum up the confirmed timeline, SSR Plus will begin rolling out into the limited monthly banners as of October, where the remaining LSSRs such as Hellfire Flame, Drive Knight, Siru, and Pig Guard will be obtainable within a limited time summon banner, which will cost you 120 black tickets to pity, which is an absolute scam, considering that SSR Plus is literally the next month after. You should not be spending your black tickets on this banner, unless you're an absolute whale, of course. Also, SSR Plus Bakuzan will be obtainable for free by doing event challenges throughout the anniversary, so make sure to save his resources for future monster SSR Plus units. And yes, unfortunately, Bomb will be released as the next hero backup stick unit, which is so disappointing to see. Free-to-play will unfortunately suffer tremendously once again, but I do plan to compensate for this by holding a giveaway once his release is near, which will be further explained more in detail in another time. Now, the only character that I do not have confirmation on is SSR Hellish Blizzard, which I believe will either be released within a money pack or in the heroic summons like Phoenix Man. So the reason why I am addressing this now, since EBK has confirmed all of it to be true, and the community should learn and know about this leak, because it is absolutely, it's a game changer for the whole entire game. This game has been fast-tracked tremendously. I personally predicted that this would all happen at the end of the year, if not even January, but now it's been pushed to October, which is really quick, so you do all deserve to know. So with that, I want to apologize from my end for not releasing this secret information to you all sooner, since I did know about all of this months ago, and I did make a promise to EBK in order to supply me with inside information and help me out to schedule my videos. So I would like to thank EBK for the last couple of months for supplying me with his info and reaching out to me, since this was all of his doing and not from the devs, so I have full respect for this man and I understand why he stepped down from the game, and I wish him the best of luck in the future. So where do we go from here? Well, I still enjoy the game, so I will be creating videos hopefully for a pretty long time, as now I might only be able to release one video every week or potentially every 2 weeks now, due to my busy schedule outside of YouTube. Now for the Discord moderators and staff, I don't know the full extent of your connections with Moontoon or Fingerfun, but please be more transparent with your community. Please provide more news on Discord and other social platforms, not even Facebook, no one uses Facebook, man, and hype the community up way in advance, since this Gale announcement was left very late and you guys didn't even hype up the quote-unquote best anniversary event ever. Wow, my god, I can't wait. I know it's probably not the Discord staff's fault for this, so I'm just gonna speak directly to the devs. Address the current situation with this game, address the drama, clarify with us, at least something, give us something. We have not once ever been in contact with you guys outside of Facebook, if that's even run by a developer. You are causing the increasing destruction of this game. You need to have better communication. You need to be more engaging with your community. Please, please, please. Just step it up, okay? Apologies for turning this review into a rant. Fingerfun and or Moontoon are just ruining this good game, not in terms of the game content, but by providing no communication whatsoever to the player base. It is honestly very disappointing. I will not be reaching out to them or the moderators for exclusive benefits, since I never got any in the first place. But if you are interested in having me by your side and promoting this game more, you'll have to take the initiative in contacting me.
Because you need me! You need me to save you! You do.
Anyways, that wraps up the end of the video. It'd be greatly appreciated if you could subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell in order to stay updated on everything you need to know about One Punch Man the Strongest. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment down below on any questions you have, and make sure to join my Discord server to stay updated with everything, and I will catch you all next time.